So just find a position down onto your back, okay, wherever is comfortable for you, however the body feels comfortable. Allowing the head at the back of the mat, the feet towards the top of the mat. Just a nice relaxed position. Any position that you would like with your legs. Doesn't have to be anything specific. They might be legs long. You might have the knees bent, leaning or TPing into one another. You might have the soles of the feet together with the knees out. You might also find a position on your side that feels more comfortable. So whatever sort of resting position is going to work for you, that's what you want to go with. And if you prefer the eyes closed, let them close. If you prefer them open, they can be open. But notice if you want to close them because maybe you find that that's the only way that you can really draw your focus inward. Or notice if you don't want to close them because it's challenging for you to remove that sense. It's just a way for you to observe tendencies and habits. Just starting to notice as you lie here without changing anything, but the movement of the breath. So you might notice there's various parts of your torso that will expand and move with each breath in. And the same as you breathe out. And when we come into observing these things in our practice, this is when we really start to transfer our awareness and our energy from an external perspective to an internal perspective. And often at the beginning of our practice, that process, it can be a bit of a bumpy road. It's not always smooth or well paved. And even if it's a road that you've traveled down many times before, this process of drawing your focus inward, sometimes the weather is not so good on the way there. Sometimes the environment, or maybe the vehicle that you're traveling in, is perhaps distracting you, or it's just not as smooth of a transition. And that doesn't give us reason to judge or discount our experience, but rather it's just a time for us to continue on the path, knowing that we will get there eventually, but sometimes it takes a little longer. Bringing your awareness into the sensation of the ground beneath you. Noticing, is it hard or soft? Is it warm or cool? Does the ground give you any other feedback that you might notice right now? Can you even imagine falling into the ground as it holds and props you up? All the while just continuing to allow this process of arriving in your space, on your mat. Just allow it to be what it is, give it time, using your patience. And we'll just be here for a few more breaths. And from here, we're just going to take a little minimal amount of movement through the head. Again, the eyes can be closed or open for this. In your own way, just start to move your head from one side over to the other. Now you can take it quite deep right away, or you can just have it gradually come into the body. So you could just move a little bit from one side to the other until the neck feels like it's ready to be a little bit more alert, moving the head side to side. And again, still noticing, just being an observer to sensation. And then starting to move the head back into the center, pausing with the head in this position. Now we'll just start to move through the wrists. So you might like to bend the elbows and just allow the fingers and the wrists to move, coming into some circular motions. And you can take the movement in one singular direction, or you can move the hands in opposition of one another. They can move together or independently. If you've only gone in one direction, just go ahead in the opposite direction now. And alternatively, you don't have to even think about which direction you went in. It can just be this free movement in the body. This movement that doesn't necessarily come from thought, but it comes from feeling and sensation. And maybe a bit of creativity or self-expression. And then we'll allow the arms to relax and release. And we're going to do the same with the legs. So let's just take one leg up into the air and just start to move through that ankle. Doesn't matter which way. If you would like to do both at the same time, you're more than welcome to. But if you're feeling content with just one leg, just working on one, pointing and flexing the toes. You can even straighten the leg a little bit, whatever feels good. External rotation, internal rotation. You can put this into the hip and into the knee as well as the ankle. Few more breaths with the leg up like this. And as we move, we'll swap sides now, letting that foot go down. If you're doing both, just keep going with both. Otherwise, go to the opposite. As we move, just noticing where you might feel your attention is being pulled. Especially as we're each in different environments, you might find that your attention is drawn to something that I might not be hearing in this space. So as much as you can, try to have like a tether. So it could be coming back to the sound or the feeling of your breath. It could be coming back to the sensation of the movement that you're doing. It could be the feeling of the ground beneath you as a way to anchor your energy and your attention. Last breath here like this. If you've had both legs up this whole time, you might be feeling a little bit of loss of blood in the feet. So we'll now take either both legs or that single leg down. Let's go for a bit of a stretch. So legs can go long, the arms can reach. Lengthening through toes, lengthening through fingers. Maybe you create a grip at the hands, a clasp. Maybe you just want to have them open and away. Just reaching from one end of the body, tips of the fingers, to the opposite end of the body, the tips of the toes. And then from here, we'll slowly squeeze the knees in towards the chest and just come into a little bit of your own movement this way. Maybe it's a rock from side to side. Perhaps it's circling the knees independently of one another, individually. So even though we haven't touched on it too much, we're constantly coming into contrasting movements or energies in the body when we come into our yoga practice. And maybe the exception to this would be something like a yin pose, where the body is just really dropping and draping and slumping generally in one direction. Whereas when we come into a little bit more active yoga, we're trying to create even spirals in the body where one half of the body is moving in one direction, the other half in the opposite. Or it could just be even within one single arm, that one part of the arm is moving one way and the other part is moving the other way. So we'll just take a continuous movement here for last few breaths. So whatever you're doing is totally fine. Don't worry about what it looks like. Just drop into the feeling of it. But notice how the breath is still smooth. It's still very calm, relaxed. Okay, and we're going to bring the knees back into the center. From here, we're going to come into a hands-free happy baby. So we'll allow the arms to relax and soften, kind of out to the sides. And then we'll start to flex the toes. And from here, we'll simultaneously widen the legs and gradually kick the feet up towards the ceiling. Now, typically in our happy baby, we're grabbing the legs and we're pulling the knees down towards the arms or the armpits. But with this hands-free version, we're trying to just see where we can go without using the hands to force the body. So this class, we work a lot with the concept of trying to invite the body rather than force. It's like if somebody wanted you to come to their house, and the difference between them inviting you kindly, I would really love for you to come over. Do you want to come over and have some dinner together? Yeah, that would be great. Okay, that's what we're doing now. But if we came over to their house and we grabbed them and we shoved them in our car and we drove them to our house and they weren't ready, there's resistance. So hands-free is where we invite the body to open. Maybe there's a bit of movement. Now, you might find this really challenging. I know for me, I'm quite flexible in this pose, so it's quite challenging. But on the other side of that, if you're quite tense, it can also feel challenging. So this hands-free can work for both ends of the spectrum. And then from here, you can choose to stay in this hands-free happy baby, or maybe you like to grab now. So now we're adding force, external force. With force, there's always higher risk. So you choose how much you want to add that. You can grab the backs of the knees, you can grab the calves, you can grab around to the outer edges of the feet. You can grab around to the big toes. So there's lots of different grips that you can take to allow the knees to draw a little bit further down. You can have the knees on the outside of the triceps. I personally like to have my knees on the inside of the elbows. This gives me a little bit more support. It also gives me more compression into my hip joint. So it just depends. Each of us are going to be different, and we're going to be feeling different things. So I invite you to experiment, right? Your body is a tool that you can use to learn more. So be curious, but be safe and intelligent. Couple more breaths. Allowing the knees to gradually drop down. The soles of the feet continue to face the ceiling. And when we come out of this, we're going to release the arms exactly like we started. So we're in this hands-free happy baby. And then we'll slowly squeeze the feet, the knees together. And then we can use the hands onto the legs to just hold the legs into a little bit of a break here. And then we're going to come into a bit more energy. So drawing the forehead towards the knees, curling in. And then exhale, let's lower the head down. And again, curling in. And exhale, lower the head down. Now this time, release the arms, stretch the fingers towards the toes. Inhale, curling up. Try to reach to whatever is towards your feet, and then exhale, lowering down. And again, inhale. Now here we're going to stay, and I want you to notice contrasting energies in your body. The breath should be relaxed and soft in the face, the jaw as well. Now this is the most fundamental contrast of energy and dynamics in our bodies when we move into our yoga poses that are quite active, is that the breath is calm, the jaw is relaxed, but particular areas of the body can often be quite contracted and active. That is the most fundamental, contrasting, opposite difference dynamic that we have in our movements here. Relax the jaw. Now, what else can you notice is contrasting? Maybe the fingers are a little bit soft, but you still reach through your shoulders. Again, we still want movement and freedom in the body. Head can move a little bit side to side. If you need some support through the neck, definitely use your hands on the back of the head, no problem. Otherwise, you can keep the arms long. A little bit of squeeze, maybe between the inner thighs, but again, still jaw is soft, breath is relaxed. 3, 2, 1. From here, keep the arms where they are. Relax the head down to the mat and try to really magnetize the back of the neck towards the floor. Then we're going to take one hand on one knee, one hand on the other, and we're going to open up the legs nice and wide here. So just allowing the legs to relax into the arms. So now we've relaxed and softened through the abdomen. Abdomen is really quite passive. And what we're going to do is take the opposite. So the belly is actually going to push out in between the thighs. Pushing out. Good. That's it. So this actually engages a portion of the pelvic floor by pushing out. It's almost like you're going to go to the bathroom, but don't. So we're trying to still maintain some of that control, and we're engaging more of the different sort of aspect of the pelvic floor than what we might be used to. Pushing the belly towards the ceiling. Big, big full belly. Okay, relax the belly. Then we'll draw the legs in again. And this time we're going to lift the legs up. Take the hands on the backs of the knees. Start to pull the legs a little bit away from the chest. Keep the elbows bent at a 90-degree angle. When you feel like the elbows can't really go any further because you want to keep that angle, then you're going to draw the head off the mat. So the chin is in towards the chest, and we're going to start to rock in the body. Now, I want you to pay attention to when you rock, that you're not rocking because you're kicking your legs up and down, and you're not rocking because you're pulling your thighs closer and further away from you. So in other words, this 90-degree angle shape through the legs and this bend of the knee stays the same, and the bend of the elbow stays the same. What we want to work on is this pushing, pulling action with the thighs, or the backs of the thighs, into the hands. So you can start to rock. So notice if you typically rock because you draw the legs quite close into the chest, or because you kick the legs up and down. And what this does is it takes the responsibility out of the trunk of the body, or the core, or the center of the body, and it puts more of momentum in. So here we're trying to keep shapes. Good. Keep the jaw relaxed. Now see if you can go just a little bit slower and holding on either end, especially as you go to your upper back. That can be a little bit harder to hold. Maybe take one more, and then we'll be meeting at the top of the mat. Feel free to let the toes tap down, or you can keep the toes lifted. The legs can go as high as you want. The choice is yours. Use the pull of the hands to draw the chest and the thighs closer and lift your chin up, like you're going to point your chin a little bit forward, and maybe the eye gaze goes up. Still, the back of the neck is spacious and long. Feel free to add layers here, maybe taking one hand off at a time, or perhaps you take both hands off together. Now, when the hands release, notice if there's a big gap between the chest and the thighs. Maybe you lower the feet down if you're wanting to take the hands off but not lose that close proximity. Or maybe you choose to keep the hands on and just continue to lift the chest. We're just here for another few breaths. Relaxing through the shoulders. So even though we're holding on, again, contrasting energies, ease in the shoulders, ease in your breath, ease in your jaw. But there's a natural tension that's occurring to keep us here. 3. Maybe you let go or lift the legs higher. 2. Right at the end, relax the jaw and the lips. 1. Good. From here, let's cross the left leg in front of the right leg in this position, and we're going to circle the torso over towards the left, and then you're going to come forward, torso to the right, and then you're going to sit up again. Going to the left, forward, right, sitting up. Good. Keep moving like that. Good, and then we'll come back into the center. Let's bring the legs up again, and we're gonna stay here again for a few breaths. So, hands can go underneath. Again, if you need to get yourself set up, you can lower the toes, chest to thighs, tilt the chin up. The tilting of the chin is not to come necessarily into a back bend. It will naturally happen that way. But in order to encourage the chest to the thighs, the more you drop your chin down, the more your chest will pull back. The more you lift your chin up, the more your chest will draw to your thighs. We're just here for another breath or two. Again, you can choose. Feet, toes are down to the mat, maybe a little high, a little higher, up to you. Arms can be out, they can be forward, they can be up. Whatever you would like to do. For 3, soft shoulders. For 2, and 1. Good. Let's take the right leg in front of the left leg and circle to the right knee, forward, to the left knee, and upright. And keep going like that. Now, you don't have to go completely upright as you come back into the center. If you want, after you go to each knee, you can round it back. It just depends how much you want to rock on your tailbone. Up to you. Letting the body shift and move. Good. Maybe 1 or so more like that. Okay, and we'll come into the center. All right, so from where you are, I just want you to find a comfortable seated position. So it might just be exactly like you're in. Perhaps you'd like to kneel, okay? Completely up to you. We will get into a tabletop eventually, so if kneeling works for you, then you can take that now, your choice. So we're gonna take the hands, palms, and flex the fingers and just push the palms down and really spread the fingers nice and wide. And I just want you to notice where your biceps are facing. So what we can do is we can turn the fingers in towards one another, and that will internally rotate through the top of the arm. We can also turn the fingertips away from one another, and that will externally rotate. But the beautiful thing about our arm is that from the elbow down to the fingers can move in one direction, while the elbow up to the shoulder can move in the opposite direction. This is harder to do when we don't have the hands down on the ground. So I just want you to see if you can try a few more of internal, the whole arm is moving, okay? A few more of external, the whole arm is moving. So just do 1 or 2 more like that, and then we're gonna see how we can create some contrasting movement through the arm. So you can see now the whole arm is moving when I move the hand and when you move the hand, and then we'll pause. From here, let's tuck the fingers in. So from the sides, yeah, this position might feel better than forward. I personally prefer this position than forward. I get a little bit more out of it. Just keep curling the fingers in so that you stretch through the wrists. Now, the equivalent to this type of movement would be with force, would be if I put weight on that. But this is where I'm using strength to create length rather than force to create flexibility. So strength creates length in the body. Okay, good. We'll shake that out. So now we're going to try with the hands, moving one part of the arm but not the other. So let's just try with one arm, okay? So you can relax one. Now with the opposite arm, I want you to just move from the bicep. So the bicep is going to internally rotate, but I want you to imagine that you're turning your fingers out. So bicep goes in, fingers go out. This is contrasting movement in the body. This part of my arm is going in, this part of my arm is going out. Okay, and then we'll bring it back to neutral, what you would normally do. Try it one more time. So the bicep, it goes in. A way, if you're not getting this, a way that you can do it is turn the whole arm in, then just turn the wrist out. It's the same activity, it's just with a little bit of a different perception, okay? Try one more of those on your own. Find your starting point, trying to turn the bicep forward, okay, or the bicep in and then the hand palm out. So we're not necessarily looking for my arm has to go 100% this way and 100% that way. I just want you to see that you can actually move this part in separation from this part, okay? That they don't have to move together, all right? So shake that out and we'll try the other one. So the other hand, pushing down through the palm. So for me, right away, I notice that the front of my elbow goes quite far forward. So this can be often linked to a hyperextension, and this is indicative of that happening in something like a down dog or a high plank. So usually you would widen your stance in order to get that, but we'll get there. So pushing through the hand palm, okay, and just sort of see the inside of the bicep. Can it turn a bit more out? Well, maybe the hand turns a bit more in. This is opposite one way. Now we'll do the other thing. Can the bicep rotate in as the hand palm turns a little bit out? And you'll feel there's a little bit of different strength into the forearm through that position. So again, start at neutral. You can do the whole thing. You can do whole thing internal rotation, then just from the elbow down, turn the hand out. Okay? Or you can do whole thing external rotation, and then just the hand turns in. A little bit confusing sometimes. Okay, we'll shake it out. Let's go ahead and push out. Strength through the fingers. It's like you're trying to touch your forearm. Strength to create length through the back of the wrist. It can be forward, it can be out to the side. You might reach it back behind you. Sometimes we do this in a fist position. We're going to work with fingers lengthened for now. Okay, good. We'll shake that out. So let's come forward into tabletop. And we're going to take some cat-cow together. So coming onto hands, palms flat, fingers nice and spread, and we'll start to take a breath in. So letting the breath in, take the eyes up, which allows the belly to stretch and your lungs to fill is the word. Exhale, empty the lungs, round your spine, tuck your chin in towards your chest, breathing in, belly is long, grip the fingertips, taking your gaze up, up, up. Exhale, round the spine. Really scoop your pubic bone forward. Keep your jaw soft. Inhale, belly is long. Eyes begin to lift, lungs becoming full. And two more. Exhale, round the spine. Tuck your chin in towards your chest. Last one here, breathing in. Try to take your time, noticing if you can find any more space to breathe into. Exhale, empty your lungs, round the spine, and we're going to stay in this position here. I want you to imagine just a little gentle squeeze between your inner thighs, a little energetic kick down through the shins and the tops of the feet. And really imagine that you're trying to push into the sides of the belly, but keep the jaw relaxed. Breathing nice and calm. That's the contrast. Calm breath. Even through contraction of muscles, we still have freedom. We're not trying to lock ourselves into anything here. 3, 2, and 1. Good. Coming into neutral spine. Let's sit the hips down towards the heels. From here, we'll just take a little bit of movement through the shoulders. So lifting the shoulders up, back, and down. And again, allow the arms to come into the movement as much as you would like to. We'll go 1 or 2 more in this direction. Good. And then you can swap it into the opposite direction. Again, go for feeling, not necessarily for what you think the movement should look like or what the shape should look like. That's it. 1 or 2 more like this. Okay, good. Let's again take the arms either forward or out to the sides. Curl those fingers. And then again, trying to touch in towards the inside of the lower arm there. Feeling the stretch. You can go low. You can go high. You can rotate internally. Just feeling the backs of the wrists stretch long. Okay, good. Let's come forward onto the hands. We're going to come into a little bit more of that movement that we've already been working on. So now we have the floor as a stopper. So we're just going to work on rotating the inside of the elbow crease forward, which again, this can often turn into a hyperextension. We're not putting a great deal of weight on the hands right now, so it's okay. And then internally rotate. Maybe your elbow crease is faced kind of towards your thighs. And then again, externally rotate. And then internally rotate. So you can see your hands are not moving at all. The movement is coming. I know for me, I tend to connect immediately to my elbows moving, but you can also connect to the biceps or the armpits, kind of opening as the elbows face back, and then the armpits kind of closing as the elbows face forward. So remember, we have this contrasting movement in the body here, okay? So when we come into something like a downward facing dog, you want to make sure that you are pushing through the hands and that's a bounding down energy, and the rebound will come through your tail, lifting up and back. And then you can play around with the movement through the elbows, but you don't want to come into a position where they're too far forward, nor where they're facing too far back. We're all completely different in our bodies, so what I look like and what you look like is going to be different, but remember, your hands don't have to be shoulder width. They might be a little bit wider, okay? That's fine too. Let's lean forward into the hands and come into cat. Exhale, round your spine, tuck your chin into your chest, and tuck your toes under. We're going to take about 10 counts to come into a down dog. So the first 2 counts, we're going to hover the knees. 1, they're just a hair off the mat, and 2. Now the next 2 counts, really look into your belly. Shift your body weight a little bit back. 1, hold, 2. Good. Lift your tail a little bit up. Keep looking into your belly. Hold, 1. Push down through hands, and 2. Again, shift your body weight a little bit back. Hold, 1. Knees are still quite bent, and 2. And the last 2 counts, you're going to lift the tail into the air. Pause there. Hold, 1 and 2. So here you should be in your own downward facing dog. If you're not there, you can go there now. And then just start to allow the body to move in any way that feels good. This is all about the feels, all about tapping into moving from a place of sensation, not moving from a place of appearance or shapes. I know for me, I like to use the idea of shapes to tap into sensation. So it just depends what you connect to. But overall, we should be moving with feeling, allowing the hips, the feet, the head, the torso to get as involved as it wants to. We'll take a few more breaths of some free movement in your down dog. And then we're going to come and find some stillness. So we'll take about 3 to 5 breaths of stillness. Now, when you come into your stillness, remember, it's not restriction. We're just finding this continuous energy. So the continuous energy in this case is bounding down through your hands and rebounding through your tail back and up. See if you can imagine your armpits kind of trying to hug in towards one another slightly. And again, the hands can open wider, or even the palms, they can turn out slightly to feel a bit more grounded in that. Give yourself permission to put a bend in the knees. Give yourself permission to have space between the heels and the mat. Looking either between the knees or maybe up into the belly. Pausing. Last breath or 2 here. Okay, good stuff. We're going to slowly walk the feet to the top of the mat. So as you do this, lift high on your toes, and whatever foot you're going to take forward first, it's because that hip that's attached to that foot, that lifts up, and then the foot is able to come a bit more forward. And again, high on the toes, and then the other hip of the other foot, it lifts to step the foot through. And you're just taking little steps to feel into the movement through the sacrum. And you can allow your body weight to shift onto your fingertips in order to make it easier to come to the top of the mat. Find the feet into a comfortable distance. It could be hip width or shoulder width or wider. And allow the knees to bend to let your spine really drape long. And maybe you just stay here, or maybe you start to move. Maybe you allow your hips to sway, your head to move. Perhaps you like to cross your arms and hook your wrists and your elbows for added bit of weight. Maybe you find that you need to place your elbows on your knees to feel length in the spine. Again, we're all about inviting the body to open. We're not trying to force it. The invitation is always going to be much better accepted than the force. Couple more breaths here. Let that head relax. Long spine. Okay, if your elbows are on the knees, or maybe if your elbows are crossed, just let those arms relax. You're going to hang the head heavy. Take your time, nice and slow, or uncurl for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We'll keep the gaze down Take a moment to really feel the blood flow return back to normal. We did spend a little bit of time being upside down. And then we can lift the chin forward when you're feeling ready. Good. Hello. Okay. Let's draw the toes and heels side by side. They don't have to touch. If it feels comfortable for you to touch them. Otherwise, there might be a gap between the toes or the heels. Try to work with the idea of maybe the kneecaps facing forward, and then notice where the feet end up. We'll turn the hands palms slightly forward. Feel the weight back onto your heels and just this lift through the crown of the head. So this is a natural lift through the spine. We're not looking to harden anything in the body, but it's a soft lifting. This kind of like floating, like you're in a float tank. Maybe you've been in one of those before. If you haven't, I recommend it. Tall spine. That's it. Fingers reaching. Good. So here we're coming into contrasting energies. From the lower half of the body going down to the feet, there's this bounding down energy. And from the torso up to the crown of the head, there's this rebound. Good. And then in between those 2 points, we've got traction. Let's breathe in. We'll sweep the arms up, reaching up all the way towards the ceiling. Lift your chest. As you exhale, let's start to fold, bend your knees as much as you would like to. Let your head hang down. We'll start to take the hands, palms flat onto the mat and walk into a downward facing dog, 1 foot at a time, lifting the tail. Feel that pushing down energy through your hands. Again, hands can be wider. You might have one hand a little bit turned in, one hand a little bit turned out. It really depends on your body, on your bones, on your joints, on your muscles. Pushing down. Imagine your armpits almost facing in towards one another like they want to say hi. Push through the hands. Good. You might feel there's a little bit more length in the backs of the legs. Now the length just doesn't come from forcing, but this added energy of the hands bounding down into the mat. Let's look forward. Again, we're going to lift high onto the toes and walk 1 foot at a time up to the top of the mat. So we're coming into some really basic stuff, but if you really pay attention, let your head hang. Let's uncurl. Take your time slowly around your own 5 counts. If you really pay attention in the basic stuff becomes, for lack of a better word, advanced. That's it. Good. Let's inhale, reach the arms up. Now, if you would like to, you might bring the hands, palms together. You might interlock your fingers, release your index, cross your thumbs, lift your chest. Reach. Now let's be a bit more active here. Bounding down through your feet and rebounding up through your fingers. Now you can keep the biceps and the ears together and lift your chest up to the ceiling that way. Or you can, if the neck is permitting you to do so, let the head come out of the frame of the arms. There are no rules. It really is just trial and error in your body. Feel the lower half of the body come in active position, a little squeeze in the glutes as you lift up through the chest. And exhale, let's forward fold. Take any pass with your arms. Let your head drop first. And then we'll plant the hands and step back 1 foot at a time. Downward facing dog. Fingers are nice and spread. Pushing down through the hands to really send the tail up into the air. And often we get this instruction to push the chest to the thighs, but this can cause a lot of compression into the low back. So instead, use the arms. The arms will generate enough power in order to send the tail high, in order to send the chest, if it does need to become closer to the thighs. Let's walk forward again. High on the toes, walking up. That's it. Good. Coming all the way to the top of the mat. Let the head hang. Let it go. Uncurl to take your time. When you're feeling ready, we'll allow the arms to go up. Maybe the feet come together. And again, let's take interlock fingers, release index, cross thumbs, reaching up. Now these contrasting energies in the body, again, is that you're bounding your feet down. Spread your toes, but lifting your chest up. Now in the back bend, gravity wants you to collapse your chest, but you want to try to keep your chest lifted up as much as you can. Your back bend is just as much about going up as it is about going back. The up will naturally take you back in a safe and sustainable way. Good. Let's forward fold. Exhale, coming all the way down. Let your head drop first. Then lean forward, plant your hands and step back 1 foot at a time into your downward facing dog. This is the last time we're doing this sequence. I know it's super, super basic, but we're just trying to figure out a little bit of details within the body. Again, imagine your armpits are trying to face in towards one another. If that feels too much on your elbows, widen your hands and or turn your hands palms out slightly so that you're not coming into this hyperextension with your elbow. A little bend in the knees wherever you need to. Breathing here. Okay, good. Let's draw the feet together at the back of the mat. As you breathe in, take your right leg up into a 3-legged dog. Check your toes. You want to see the toes are flexed down. Maybe there's still a bend in your left knee. You want to feel that you're buoyant in that left leg. You're not stuck or sort of creating restriction in the body. Now the energy has gone from pushing down through the hands to lifting in the tail. Now it's shifted, pushing down the hands, lifting through the back foot. Let's lift high on the left toes. Exhale. Slowly squeeze your right knee towards the outside of your right arm. Lifting it up, and then slowly your foot is going to lower down towards that pinky finger. From here, walk your foot into the center. Inhale, coming into a twist as you take your right arm up. Lift. We're going to lift onto the tips of the fingers and gradually lift off of the tips of the fingers. Now feel how your back heel reaches to whatever is behind you, while the crown of your head reaches to whatever's in front of you. And also on a different plane, the top right arm reaches high to the ceiling, while the bottom left arm reaches down to the mat. Good. From here, we're going to look down. Both hands will frame that front foot, and the back heel is going to lower down. Keep your back heel and your front heel in the same alignment. Inhale, place both hands onto the knee as you lift your chest, and then sweep the left arm all the way around to open up through the chest. Now make any adjustments through the heels so that those heels are in one line. Still your right hand is on the right side, and you're reaching your left arm all the way out in the same direction as your left foot. See if you might sit a little lower. Good. Pausing there. Notice how the lower half of the body rotates over towards the right, while the upper half of the body rotates over towards the left. For 3, relax your shoulders and your jaw. For 2, and for 1. Good. Inhale. We're going to sweep that arm all the way over. Both hands, palms plant on the thigh. Lift on the back toe. Lower the hands down. We're going to come out of this the same way we went into it. So sweep the heel and the knee to the outside of the right arm. Go back to 3-legged dog. You might have to hop that left foot into the center. Bounding down through the hands, kick through the heel. Imagine your armpits rotating to face one another as you push through your hands and then lower that foot down. Let's come into the other side. So right foot is into the center. Readjust your hands. Inhale, taking the left leg up. Kick through the heel. Again, some space between the heel and the mat can feel good. A bend in the knee can feel good. Keep bounding down through your hands and then lift high on your right toes. Exhale, bend your left knee to the outside of the left arm and lowering your foot down towards that pinky finger. From here, lifting the left arm off as you walk the foot in the center. Inhale, twist, reaching up. Good. Now when we go to lift, the lift comes from the energy going up. So you're on your fingertips first, then see if you can take weight off of your fingertips. Push through your back heel and stretch through the crown of the head. Now if the head is not feeling good looking up, look down. No problem. Reach your shoulders in opposite directions. Relax your jaw. Keep your breath soft. Good. And from here, let that hand lower down and then take both hands on towards the knee. Lower the back heel, so your heels are in one line. Keep your left hand on your knee. Inhale, right arm comes up and long. Good. Pausing there. So you really want to make sure in this position that everything that is in the body from the lower portion is rotating to your left. And everything in the upper body is rotating to the right. Now, it's not a lot. It's very subtle. Soften your shoulders. Feel the outer edges of both of your feet grounding down. In other words, there should be space in the arches of the feet. Pause here. And let's inhale, lift that arm up. Come through to face the top of the mat again. High on the back toes, both hands on the thigh. Lower the hands down to frame the foot. Push down. Swipe the heel to the back of the leg. Slide the knee to the outside of the arm. Come back. Maybe hop that foot in the center. Three-legged dog. Pushing down through the hands and squeezing again just a little bit so that your thighs and the hips are both parallel. Lower the foot down. Good. Feet hip width distance or roughly around there. Again, look to the top of the mat, high on the toes, walking one foot at a time because that hip lifts until you come to the top of the mat. Let the head go, let it drop. Uncurl the spine, take your time. Nice and slow. Good. Pausing there, and we'll take the arms out. Inhale, we'll go up. Palms are gonna come together. This time, turn your gaze forward, interlock your 10 fingers, place the palms at the back of the head, and scoop up. Elbow points reaching up. So there's a bit of contrasting happening here, a bit of opposite dynamic in the body. We could choose to drop the head into the hands and sink down, or we could hold the head up so much that it doesn't go back at all. So we want to feel this lift up and over. So the back of the neck is spacious and long. Good. One more breath. Okay, let's release. Inhale. Reach the arms up. And from here, drawing the hands, palms into a prayer position at the chest. Good. So we're going to take that wide-legged stance again and just add a little bit more with the arms, okay? So you're going to actually step your left leg to the back of the mat. So left leg will go all the way to the back of the mat. Those toes are going to be pointing, okay? And then the opposite foot, which is through your right leg, those toes are going to be in that direction. So opposite sort of with the feet here, just like we've done, and you're going to bend the knees. So when we did this before, we had one hand on the knee and one arm out. So you can come back to that position, okay? The left arm extended out, the right hand on the right knee. Now really imagine your left hip rotating just ever so slightly down and forward to the right, and weight coming onto the outer edge of the right foot. So the lower half of the body, it's lowering down, and it's also rotating a little bit to your right. Now, with the upper half of the body, from this position, taking your right hand palm, bringing the palm forward, and you're going to use a little bit of leverage to twist over towards the left. That's it. Good. Now really feel into that leverage and release the right arm out to the side. See if you can sit a little bit lower and keep your spine tall in the center. Relax your shoulders. We're going to take 3 taps of the arms. So inhale, arms go up, tap the fingers. Exhale, arms float down. 2 more. Inhale, arms go up. Breathe through that leg. Exhale, arms go down. Inhale, last one, arms go up. Exhale, arms go down. Good. From here, place the hand onto that knee again, and we're going to straighten that front leg. Relax both arms down, and you're just gonna step to the top of the mat. So turning, let's bring the palms together, and we'll come into the other leg. So now the right foot is gonna step to the back of the mat, okay? So right foot goes back. The right toes are pointing a little bit out, and then the left toes are to your side. So we'll bend nice and deep into the left knee, and we'll take that left hand on top of the thigh and sweep the right arm out to the side. So again, this is contrasting, and especially as we get into the energy and the intensity that builds, we have to contrast that with our calm breathing, which is hard to do, okay? And with that relaxed jaw. So right hip a little bit down and forward, okay? Left knee a little bit back, so there's more weight on the outer edge of the left foot. And then reach and twist your torso slightly over to your right and allow the left arm to release. Inhale, tap the fingers, 3, and open. And 2, and open. Last time, 1, and open. Okay, bend the elbow, place the hand on the knee. From here, straightening into that leg. You can turn to face the top of the mat and just step again, the feet together, palms into prayer. Let's breathe in. The arms are gonna go up, high. Exhale, fold in any way that you would like to. Let the back of the neck go long. Plant your hands, step back, downward facing dog. 1 foot at a time. And just stay here for a couple of breaths, just to notice in the body how things are feeling. Bounding down through the hands and rebounding up through the tail. Okay, we'll lift high on the toes. Now stay high on the toes and spread your toes. Make sure pinky toes, big toes, they're really far apart from one another. Then bend your knees and dip your knees down to the mat. Now from here, we'll drop down onto the elbows. This is gonna relieve some pressure from the toes. And we're just gonna gently, gently let the hips, the buttocks, sink towards the heels and the forehead to drop down. And then let's go, come forward, inhale, shift the weight, exhale, let the buttocks drop down to the heels, drop the forehead. Again, inhale, come forward, and then shifting it back one more time. Now from here, you can choose to stay if you prefer this. If you feel like you're wanting to add a little bit more weight, then you're going to place your hands just in front of the knees, and just gently push yourself up until you feel like you might be able to stay. So if it's too much weight, you can stay here, or the head can go down again, okay? Or else you can walk the hands onto the knees, the thighs. Maybe you feel free with those arms relaxed beside the body. And we're just gonna let the eyes close down here. So if you're really feeling sensation through the feet, this is where there might be the tendency for us to react in terms of tensing areas of the body that don't need to be tense. So this is our natural response, our reaction. And we're trying to be observant to perhaps come into a place where we're not reacting. Maybe we're reacting initially, but over time, we're not. If you need to relieve some pressure from the feet, then just walk those hands a bit forward and drop the forehead down if you need. We'll just be here for another 3 or so breaths. So notice, can you let the lips just flutter? Let the belly go, yeah? Don't hold it tense and tight. Let it soften, let it jiggle. Another one you can do is to make saliva in the mouth and swallow that. And these are all parts of our autonomic nervous system that we can voluntarily and involuntarily control. And they help us to bridge the gap between the subconscious and the conscious. Okay, let's slowly lean forward. Hands, palms can drop down. Drop the forehead down. And then walk the hands forward onto the forearms. Release the toes. And you can give them a little bit of a tap if you need to. Okay, and then we'll draw the knees and the feet together. And then sit the bum to the heels and inhale, lift the spine nice and tall. So here, we don't have a gap between the ankles and the mat now. We're gonna come into half tortoise pose. So just like we were in our standing postures where we sort of come into that lifted position, that mountain pose, I kind of wanna start the same way here. Inhale, reach the arms out. Lift them all the way up. Cross your thumbs, but keep the rest of the fingers released so your palms are in a prayer position with the thumbs hooked. Reach tall. Now, without creasing the back of your neck, just tilt your gaze up enough so you just see the pinky fingers. Squeeze your thighs. Slowly start to lower the body down. Try to keep your bum as close to your heels as possible, allowing the fingertips, pinky fingers rather, and the forehead to attempt to connect with the mat. Really, really stretch long through the fingers. And in this case, the arms are an extension of the spine. So you want to imagine a weight. This is our contrasting energy. The tail is softening down to the heels. But the spine, through the upper spine, through the crown of the head, and out to the tips of the fingers, is lengthening forward to the top of your mat. So again, notice as you stay here for a few more breaths, notice if the energy wants to go only in one direction. Can you come into this idea of opposites? Tail dropping down and back. Upper body, torso, fingers reaching forward to the top of the mat. Let's squeeze between the inner thighs and pause. Take your chin and lift it a little bit forward so you can look towards your fingers and pause. And keep your biceps to your ears. As you inhale, that's when you can come up. Squeeze the thighs, reaching tall, and exhale. Let the arms relax and soften down beside the body. Okay, good stuff, you guys. Let's roll to one side or the other. We're gonna, the legs go long. You can just give them a little bit of a bounce if you would like to. If there's another type of movement that you wanna take while you're here, maybe side to side action feels nice. Okay, good. And we'll just slide ourselves so that the buttocks is in the middle of the mat. We're gonna reach and sweep the arms forward and long. And from here, tuck your chin to your chest and curl. So it's almost like your chin wants you to lean back, but your fingers are begging you to stay forward. And this is that contrasting dynamic energy in the body. Taking your time to come all the way down and slowly release. We'll let the legs go straight for just a breath or two here. We are going to finish with a nice glute stretch again, where we're inviting the body to open rather than forcing it. And just noticing how that feels. From where you are, take a bend into the knees, soles of the feet flat onto the mat. We'll start with the left leg. So we're just going to lift the left foot off the mat, and we're going to externally rotate the leg. Now, what we're trying to do is hold a gap between the outside of the left ankle and the top of the right knee. So if perhaps when you go to do that, you cannot get the heel on top of the knee, then slide your right heel out more so that you have gap there. Okay, so we want to keep that gap. So we're using the strength of our external rotation to generate flexibility through external rotation. And this is a lot more of a sustainable way to approach our active postures so that we're not forcing the body to stretch beyond maybe what it should do. So using this open chain movement here, this actually really does tell us where a lot of our gaps are in our strength versus flexibility. So sometimes we have gaps in our contrasting energies that are maybe too big. The gap is too big. So now we can lift the right foot off the mat and feel the right knee touch the outside of the left ankle. I like to bring my arms out to the sides, and then without using the hands, you're just going to see if you can draw the legs as close as you need to in order to start to feel stretch through the left buttocks. Relax and soften your shoulders. Now you might play around with, do I prefer the unit of my legs to shift a little more to the right? Do I prefer the unit of my legs to shift a little more to the left? Do I need to flex through both of my feet or only one? Now, if you would like to use the hands as an external force, you can. So you might like to thread through, grab the thigh, and come into pulling. Again, remember, anytime we use force, it's an increase of risk in the body. It doesn't mean it's not effective, but we just need to be aware that we lose the strength and we increase the flexibility, which means we increase the body's risk. So it's completely up to you, but it's really important, no matter what you choose, that you're informed and that you go into how it feels for you. And also this understanding that we do not need to constantly come into the most forceful position in order for our bodies to become flexible and mobile and agile. Good. Now, if you're holding on to that leg, I want you to slowly let it go. Let the arms release, and we're going to come out of it the same way we went into it. So slowly, allowing the sole of the right foot to drop down. As you do that, there's a gap between the left ankle and the right leg. And then we'll let the leg go. Let both legs go. And just relax. Just let that blood flow return back to normal. And we'll come into the other side. So bending the knees. And externally rotating through the right leg, a gap between the outside of the right ankle and the top of the thigh there. And again, if you're not able to hook that on because the leg can't make it, then send your left heel a little bit further away so you can come into that rotation. Now, this might be a little bit more of a core exercise based off of the fact that you've drawn the legs away from you. That's okay, we're not here for too long, still working on that external rotation. Then flex through the left toes, lift the left heel off the mat so you feel the connection. And now we're using the force of the left leg to encourage the stretch of the right buttocks. And you can tell the big gap. So you might even just lower that left heel down and see, well, this is where I can get my right leg without force. And then you push the knee into the ankle and you can see where you can go with force. Again, it's not a matter of one being bad while the other is good. It's just important that we understand where the gaps are in our body. So I know for me, I'm quite flexible, so I work on those gaps of trying to maintain my strength within my flexibility. Because at the end of the day, if you're looking for therapy within your yoga practice, then you need to be paying attention to where those gaps are. If you would like to use the hands to draw the leg in, you're more than welcome to. Now, it could be that the hands are just an encouragement or a guide, but still, you're using the majority of the strength to encourage the unit of the legs in towards you. Not using the hands can also prevent us from moving too deep into the body and then risking injury. But when we do use the hands to force, we will get flexible faster, but we're really at high risk of injury. It's not a sustainable way to approach our practice. Last breath here. Okay, and then from here, slowly, if you're holding on, let go, release the arms to the sides. Start to lower the unit of the legs down first, lowering the left foot down so you have a gap between the right ankle and the top of the left thigh. And then both legs are gonna go long. Let them release down to the mat. Let the arms relax along the sides of the body. If the eyes are open, you might like to close them down. We're just gonna take a few breaths here. Allowing your legs to soften. Maybe they open up a little bit wider. Sorry about that noise if you heard it. Letting the legs and the arms find a comfortable position. Just focusing on the breath, the relaxed jaw and tongue. And whichever side you would like to roll onto, you might take that arm, use it as kind of a pillow, just rolling onto one side. It doesn't matter which one, and just pausing on your side for a moment or two. Allowing your equilibrium to find some stability in this side position. And when you're ready, pushing up into a seated position. And you can do that with the eyes closed or open and down. Just sort of kind of staying with your gaze internal and focused like a cocoon. Coming into a comfortable seated position. And we'll draw the hands palms together if you wish in a prayer at the chest. If you prefer something else like hands folded in the lap or hands on the knees, it's really up to you. It's whatever is meaningful for you, whatever feels like a good way to finish your practice. Bowing the chin down. This is a bowing to self. And let's acknowledge just all of the contrasting things within ourselves. Honoring and recognizing the light and the dark, the ups and the downs, where we're hard sometimes, where we're soft, where we're feeling full of energy, or sometimes very, very the opposite, tired, underwhelmed. Just recognizing all the contrasting aspects of ourselves. I had a friend once say that we're all walking hypocrites. And this is so true because we just have so much to ourselves. Just like in our yoga practice, there's always contrasting energies going on and different dynamics and oppositions. And this is true within ourselves and our lives. So just recognizing that, we can't have one without the other. And being okay with that. And even if you feel like you can't come into being okay with that, just starting to plant the seed of recognizing that that is within you. And just acknowledging that. And when you're ready, you can let the eyes open. And just come into this gratitude of your practice. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining in and for sharing this practice.